different plants, different voices, and different ways of having conversations. It's time to get personal with plant medicine. Welcome to Getting Personal with Plant Medicine. I'm your host, Diana Crash, and today I am joined once again by the lovely Amy Donahue. How are you doing today, Amy?
Today, I'm okay. I'm in Phoenix, and we're getting another really bad heat wave this weekend, so it's just like hibernation mode this time of year, but it's fine.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, I feel you. We're having one here, but it's nowhere near as intense as yours, so I feel your pain.
You have humidity. We don't have as much right now. Like we do because it's monsoon, but not like back east.
Yeah.
It's a given.
So sorry. I was like, we can keep going about this weather talk for a while now, but we're going to switch gears.
Let's talk about lion's mane. Let's talk about things that make people feel good.
Yeah, let's talk about one of our favorite mushrooms, or at least one of my favorites. Because I'm still getting into it, I'm still trying to move past my texture issues and learn how to cook all of them. So anyway, lion's mane is great for so many reasons, and you've already been on the show to talk about functional mushrooms to some extent, but you're an encyclopedia of knowledge when it comes to functional mushrooms and other kinds as well. So I thought, who better to bring back to talk about the fantastic lion's mane? And even though this won't come out until later, we're doing this in Leo season, so I feel like it's it's a good synchronicity there. So can you talk about how lion's mane is different than other types of fungi?
Well, the first thing, fungi, like he's such a fun guy.
I know.
The first thing is it's been studied for many, many years. It was the 1700s when it was named. So especially in Chinese medicine, traditional medicine, they've been using it forever. So it just has longevity as far as the knowledge of the medicinal part, the functional part of the mushroom. And it has become the most popular, I think, as far as what I see out there, the most popular functional mushroom on the mainstream market now. So there's just a lot more exposure to it and more people are hearing about it.
Yeah. I'm seeing it paired with a lot of other types of plant medicine lately, and I'm excited because I think it does really pair well with some other plant medicines. So what is your experience with lion's mane?
Well, I just had my second cup of coffee in the morning and I put my lion's mane powder right into it, stir it up, and for the most part, it dissolves into it. There will be a little bit of residue left over, which you're supposed to also drink if you want to consume as much as possible. But I started doing this maybe 3 months ago as far as putting it in my coffee in the morning. And I can say just from personal experience that I do feel more alert, not just a caffeine boost, but there's just an alertness that lasts longer than the caffeine. It will carry me through the day. And it's the one that I don't take later in the day because of that. That's for Rishi for another episode. But it just starts my day off right and helps me get my mind focused and going because I work with people from around the world. So sometimes I have to be at my desk by 6 a.m.
I know you're up early. You're an early riser.
I got your stuff this morning on my walk and it was before 5 o'clock my time. And I'm like, oh, East Coast is up.
I know. I'm like, how is she awake already? Anyway.
Well, that's also menopause, which is another episode.
Yeah, right. And so I like lion's mane. I'm just going to put my little 2 cents. When I do have it, I don't always have it on hand, but it helps me with focus, and it definitely helps with energy. And for me, it's like a stabilizing energy. It's not, like a quick spike and then it teeters out. It's consistent throughout the day, I feel. But you do have to be mindful of when you consume, at least for me. If I take it too late.
I'm the same way.
Yeah. I'll be cleaning the house all night. Which isn't always a bad thing, but. So there are a lot of suggestions out there online on how to cook lion's mane. I know because I went down that rabbit hole recently and I could not figure out a way to prepare them easily.
Yeah.
But when I came across your comprehensive guide that you recently wrote for Cannabis Tech, is that correct? The
Yeah.
publication. I was really surprised to see that you had a suggestion about exposing them to the sun before you cook
Yeah.
them. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So one of the main components, one of the main helpers in lion's mane are the beta glucans, and those are the things that activate the functional part of the mushroom. Well, that stuff gets activated by heat or sun. So for food, and this is for all mushrooms, I will prepare them however they're supposed to be prepared, chopped, sliced, whatever. Put them on a cookie tray and stick them right on my patio. I'm in Phoenix, so it's sunny all the time. And what the sunshine does is activates the beta glucans and the vitamin D, which we all need. And I can tell you, living in Phoenix, my pharmacist says that 75% of the patients in Phoenix are depleted in their vitamin D
Wow.
because we're inside, but when we're outside, we're covered in SPF because we need to be. I mean, skin cancer is a real thing here, and I've known so many people who've died from it. So having that vitamin D in our bodies is really important, and the sun helps us with that. So it's just more of Mother Nature helping Mother Nature to make us feel better.
That's awesome. I love that. That's so you do that with every kind of mushroom?
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Portobello, button mushrooms, everything that I'm going to eat as far as a fungus goes outside. It's up to a half an hour. Some I've seen people say 10 minutes, but I'm that kind of person. I'm always a little extra. So I'll just leave it out there while I'm chopping the garlic or, prepping the rest of the dish. They're outside in the sun.
And there are a lot of dishes that you can make with it. And I'm really tempted to make the imitation lobster roll. I saw. I think it was with the lion's mane, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so can you talk about the ways that a consumer can ensure that they are buying quality lion's mane? Because there are a lot of products out there. So,
Actually, before we do that, I want to get back to cooking because
oh
you and
yeah,
we chat on this thing all the time. Once we get on a roll, it's like 2 hours of voice message. We send voice messages back and forth for anybody who's listening. And you have the same, not issue, but issue that a lot of people have when it comes to mushrooms is texture.
yeah.
I remember growing up, I've always loved mushrooms, those disgusting sliced ones in a can. I would fry them up after partying all night when I was a teenager, and that would be one of my snacks getting home. But a lot of people don't like that slimy texture of it. And that's when I tell people to learn how to do like a dry fry or a dry saute. And that means no oil, no anything. Just let them sit in a nonstick pan, of course, because there's no oil, and it'll get crispy on the outside. So you can do that and maybe stop right before the crispiness, take it out, let it cool, and then make your lobster roll that way. So it's still solid and not too crispy on the outside that you can enjoy it as a lobster roll, because lion's mane is one that people say has a seafood taste and texture,
Hmm.
much like crab, imitation crab, or lobster. So look up ways to dry fry, and you will have much more success with liking all the different mushrooms.
When you said the dry fry, I'm just like thinking my pan is going to burn. What kind of pan are you using that you do a dry fry?
So you don't need a high heat,
Okay.
medium heat. And so the only way it would burn would be if the temperature is too high. I cook almost exclusively in a cast iron frying pan that I've had since 1992. It's already cured enough that it's pretty much non-stick. And after I use it, of course, I will do my curing in the oven with a little bit of oil to keep that non-stick surface on there. So that's how I do it. And when you cook with cast iron, you get some iron in your diet too, which we all need.
That's awesome. I was like, of course you have one from 1992. That is the one kitchen tool I desperately need. Um, so have you ever tried the faux lobster roll? What do you like to make? Now I'm curious.
Yeah, so I have done the faux lobster roll. My very favorite, because I also make my own pasta, is to make like a fettuccine or linguine, a fresh one. I will dry fry in chunks the lion's mane. Once it's close to being done, then I can add a little olive oil, some chopped garlic until, because you don't want to put the garlic in too early because then it gets brown and bitter. So you put that towards the end, salt and pepper. And then I will add a splash of cream, some grated Parmesan, and then put in the pasta and make it like a lobster fettuccine. So get creative with it, have fun with it. Any way that you would like pasta, you can do that with lion's mane, even if it's not a cream sauce with just some olive oil, salt, and pepper. Um, don't hesitate to have fun with it and see what other flavor combinations that you like. Add some curry or something like that for some international flair.
That's what I did with the pink oyster mushrooms. That was my foray into trying out the texture, trying to kind of mess with the texture a little bit. I sauteed it in oil first, and then I put it in the curry. So it was softer. It was a little crispy on the edges, but it wasn't as chewy as I expected it to be.
Yeah. I do a blue oyster Thai curry soup with my, it's like a, I can't remember the soup. It's more Tom Kha Gai. It's like a Tom Kha Gai.
Yeah.
Blue oysters. And that's probably one of my favorites. I will make a bucket of that in my cast iron Dutch oven for the winter time. Like I'll make it around Thanksgiving and just freeze a bunch of it to, heat up and put over some rice noodles or something, or brown rice, as I defrost it and eat it through the winter. But oyster mushrooms are the ones that people have the easiest time growing and they're more familiar with as far as eating.
Yeah, they definitely grew a lot easier than the lion's mane. So speaking to that, I'm skipping ahead a little bit because
that's fine.
So we'll go back to what people should look for. But since we're talking about growing, there's so many grow boxes out there. You helped me through my journey that didn't actually work out that well the second and third time. I'm going to go back at it again. But what advice do you have for people that are like really curious about these grow boxes, because they seem like they're super interesting and easy? And I mean, I shouldn't say they seem, they are really fun to use. I just used a bunch of them.
Yeah.
So what is your take on those?
Well, I like that there are some that are out there, but now because it's popular, there are a lot of companies that come out with them and they get moldy before people have results. So I'm not sponsored by these people. I don't make any money by mentioning North Spore, but those are the ones that I recommend for people who take my classes. If they don't want to get into the inoculation and the real nerding out, if they want to buy a grow kit, North Spore is great. Their shipping takes a while. It could be up to 2 weeks before they get it to you because they are a smaller company. But just look for reviews on.
Sorry.
Yeah. Look for reviews online too. I'm in so many subreddits on every kind of mushroom, and people will show the picture and they'll be like, well, I got this, and then I got the spores, and then everything got moldy. I don't know where that came from. Stick with the ones that are most well known. And I'm not sure if Stamets has grow kits. I think he does. So if you're on the West Coast, look up Paul Stamets for his kits. If you're on the East Coast, go with North Spore.
Yeah, I love North Spore. That was just the last batch that I was sent. And I'm a big fan, not just because they're from my hometown, but I love how they package their instructions, and they do make it very accessible and like user friendly. Because I've had some other ones before where I'd get like different types of instructions that conflicted with each other. And I'm like, which one do I do? And then I ask you, and you're like, no, don't do that. Do this. So, but I like how North Spore, they're like, basically, if you mess up, this is what you can do to fix it. And I did it, and it worked. And I also love that they encourage you to plant it in a garden once you're done. I don't have a garden or a yard, but I love that because you can get, a third flush? A fourth flush, maybe even. Tons. And you turn your backyard into this lovely mushroom haven. So I think that's really cool. And they also have some other grow boxes that are a little bit more advanced, I guess is the word.
Yeah. Yep.
And now this has turned into a North Spore ad, but you know what? They did send me a bunch of boxes, so I say go for it. Check them out because they are great. It's a good company as far as I can tell. And anyway, that's hard to find, especially in the plant medicine and earth medicine space, as you know. So let's get into that a little bit. A lot of people don't want to grow their own medicine. They want it in a
Right.
capsule already, and I've been there. I understand that. How can they determine if they're purchasing quality lion's mane?
There are no regulations. The health and wellness field, as we know, explodes when something becomes popular. So that means there are a lot of products that come on the market. I mean, look at the CBD world. How many CBD products came out that didn't even have CBD in them?
CBD
Because
pillowcases. I always have to go back to the CBD pillowcases.
I'll never forget that. And that is because people don't take the time to educate themselves and they believe every ad they see on Facebook. Because that's where I saw that ad. And I was like, what? What do you? Anyway, you want to make sure that there are ways that things are processed properly. So when I'm not growing my own, I have a guy at my farmer's market and they sun dry everything. And the point is, this is my Bible, and I think I've shown you this. This is Christopher Hobbs. It's a medicinal mushroom. Like I've got sticky notes everywhere on this one. But this is where I learned a lot of all of this during the pandemic. This was my pandemic hobby. So a lot of people will say, "Oh, just chop it up and dehydrate it and put it in your grinder." So I use a coffee grinder, a separate one from my coffee. But what you need to do is activate the good stuff inside. Think of cannabis. We need to decarboxylate the flour before we make butter or something to activate the THC. It's the same sort of process. When it comes to lion's mane, you want to simmer it for 3 hours in hot water. That hot water activates the beta glucans, the terpenes, the triterpenes, and all the good stuff inside, and then it gets dehydrated. Unfortunately, when it comes to labeling, you really don't know what you're getting when you purchase it unless the label says this has been activated and you have to read the labels. Once you get it home, you can find out after wasting a ton of money on something that might not be good by using that plain old iodine that we use as kids on our cuts that we hate because it burns at first.
Mm-hmm.
Take a couple capsules, empty them into a little cup or something, add a few drops of iodine. If it turns blue, you're set. If after a couple minutes it turns brown, that means there's more starch than the good stuff in those capsules, which means the good stuff hasn't been activated. So you can do an iodine test to find out right away. But read labels.
I'm like, where do you buy iodine these days? I was thinking
The
about
drugstore? I don't know, Walgreens?
Yeah, I guess so. I just haven't seen it anywhere. Like you've took me back to my childhood there mentally, but
Yeah.
I was like, when was the last time I saw anyone use iodine?
I don't even know when I think I bought it. I haven't bought it in over 20 years, not since I've lived in Phoenix. So it's not something, maybe parents with little kids still have it sitting around, but I'm not a parent, so I don't know how that has evolved. That part of the market has evolved, and there are other products out there. But yeah, just plain old iodine.
Okay. Is there anything else that you can use? What if you can't find iodine?
You can find it. It's out
Okay,
there.
I'm just joking. I'm joking. But I
Yeah,
do have a question for you because you got me thinking about I dehydrated mine incorrectly because I didn't know until after the fact. You were like, hey, do this. And I was like, whoops. So, and I still have it in my cabinet. Can I do anything with that if I dehydrated it before I did all, what is that process called?
Actually, I don't even know what the name of it's probably on the outline that we have. But for that, You can just keep it in a little jar over your stove. And if you're making like a pasta cream sauce or something, just sprinkle some of the powder on top. It would be for flavor more than health at that point. Not to
Okay.
say that you're not going to get any health benefits from it. You just won't get the maximum benefits without processing it correctly. So I have 3 or 4 different tubs of dried mushroom powder that I get at the farmer's market that I'll use in soups and stews because there's still nutrition in it. You just don't get as much of the functional part. That's okay.
So you can just put it in anything
Yep.
and it doesn't taste weird?
Well, you'll taste the mushroom part. So that's why I say put it in like soups and stews. And if you have like fresh mushrooms you're putting in something, that adding some powder will just add another layer to that. And I love mushrooms. I love the flavor. So I'll put it on any rice dishes, noodle dishes, whatever. It's just another spice in my cabinet.
Wow. I've only ever used it in chocolate or in the coffee,
Yeah, like mud
those
water.
right, those packets that are like, oh, I can't remember the name right now, but I don't use it often because it's very expensive.
Yeah,
So I'm going to I'm going to be brave. I'm going to try it in something else because I
yeah.
love it. I love lion's mane so much. It's just, getting wrapping my brain around mushrooms as a whole, like edibly. You know what I mean? Did that even make sense? Wrapping my brain around the texture issues or trying to get over those.
You'll get there. But you just mentioned something that is the reason why people should be growing their own medicine. And that goes for cannabis too. Like it's expensive.
Yeah.
And if you want high quality, you're better off growing, especially if you're in like an MSO state where the quality is kind of churn and burn out there. Growing your own medicine is extremely important and much cheaper because those grow kits can be, $40 or under, and you get several flushes out of it. You probably get about $300 or $400 worth of fresh mushroom out of one grow kit, and $300 or $400 for groceries. That's like a month or 6 weeks for me.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. So growing our own medicine all around is more economical.
Absolutely. But it's not always possible, unfortunately.
No, no.
And it does take a lot of trial and error. And luckily, we have people like you out there in the world to help people with those trial and errors. So before we end, tell us a little bit about the guide that you just recently wrote and then also where people can find you.
So this one, I'm a contributor to cannabistech.com. And when I get mad at something is when I write about something. And I've been doing social media for 20 years. So when I see something online that like makes me pissed off or come on, people, let's do it the right way.
Same.
I take those steps and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm going to write an article. Tap,
Yeah.
tap, 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 tap. So it's cannabistech.com. I've got, I did one about Maria Sabina, who's the godmother of psilocybin mushrooms in a medical setting. And so I do a deep dive on things before I put them out there because social media sucks and there are always trolls. Thankfully, I don't get trolled on this stuff, but really just learning and understanding and knowing what is out there. I'm an educator. My degree is high school Spanish teacher. I've been educating people on cannabis since I got into the industry. So I write articles to make sure that people understand that they're spending their money in the right way. So that's where you can find this actual article.
And you gave really great instructions on how to make your own powder, which I thought was really incredible.
Yeah. And that information is out there, but people don't understand what's real and what's not. So a lot of it comes from this one book and YouTube. YouTube has so much great stuff on there, but that's where I learned about the dehydrating without activating. And I saw a comment. I'm like, oh, this was many, many years ago. So that's when I learned how to do this. But otherwise, I'm on LinkedIn, Amy Donahue. That's where I plant myself. If you aren't bothered by politics, I'm on Twitter. All one word spelled out. The fabulous one is my handle on there. I've been on Twitter longer than the new owner. So that's really those two networks are my biggest. I don't really spend time on Meta.
Okay, well, we'll link those in the show notes for sure, and as well
Ew.
as the article. Thank you again for illuminating me about lion's mane, and please come back anytime to talk more about mushrooms.
God, anytime. I love chatting with you.
This podcast has been a product of Your Highness Media. Each episode is written, produced, and edited by Your Highness Media. Thank you for listening.